Raymond sitting in FitWorkz Hybrid Training Gym in DeKalb, Illinois. We would love to hear from you guys. We usually say this at the end of the video. We're going to say it now. Feel free to post your comments and questions below, whether it's here on Facebook Live, later on Facebook, or on YouTube, youtube.com/FitWorkz DeKalb. We had this question pop up a couple times in the last week. For those of you that don't know, we promote two of the largest drug-free bodybuilding fitness contests in the country every year. Gives us an opportunity to hang out with, chat, catch up with some old friends, and a lot of competitors, a lot of people in the fitness industry, in many cases from around the world. This past weekend we had competitors from all over the Midwest and as far away as Houston. And one of the things that came out of that discussion from people that I would describe as veteran exercisers, our worker outers, and probably a step beyond that, people that are actually doing training and participating in some type of competitive endeavor. And one of the topics of conversation at dinner and here in the club and actually at our venue was, what do I do when I have this going on with my back? I've got a potential herniated disc, or I speculate a herniated disc, or I've got this going on with my shoulder, or I had knee surgery and now I've got this. They clean this up, they fix this with the knee, but I compensated with the other side. Well, first of all, right off the bat, one of the things that comes to mind whenever I hear those topics being discussed is, what is your training like? And it doesn't matter if you're a bodybuilder, a power lifter, a CrossFitter, a weekend warrior, 5K-er, 10K-er, 13.1, or the likes. If you do the same type of training day in and day out, year in and year out, you're going to start wearing joints and connective tissue of the human body out. Not to mention the fact, because your training is very one-dimensional, more running to be a better runner, more powerlifting, emphasizing the big three and the derivatives, squat, bench, deadlift, one-dimensional. If you're going to be a bodybuilder, everything is about maximal muscle hypertrophy, and in time what we see happen is more volume, so we spend more time doing those things, and more intensity because we're entering competitive events. Well, unfortunately, the human body is not like a car. It's not like a machine. And when we wear our joints out, we usually end up with an injury. Now, a lot of people would make the case and say, well, I wouldn't trade the injury. I wouldn't trade how I trained and ended up with the injury because that gave me my edge. That made me a competitor. It made me a champion. It allowed me to put the numbers up in the squat, the bench, or the deadlift, or allowed me to turn the time in my marathon, or it allowed me to get on stage and do this in my physique contest. Well, I think that's only half true. I think training smarter and avoiding those injuries is probably the best way to proceed. It's like one time we had a Division I football coach at the time, and I'll tell you, it was Coach Jerry Kill, right across town. He was coaching the NIU Huskies. He stopped in to see what we were doing with athletes. Wanted to make sure that what we were doing, if any of his athletes were going to come here, he was okay with it. And the first thing he said after seeing what we were doing was this: you're helping athletes get in good football positioning. Good football positioning means they're not going to get hurt, or they're not as likely to get hurt. I can't coach hurt athletes. So if you're one of those athletes that's looking at it and you're saying, no, Ray, you don't understand, I got to pour the coals to it, I got to have the volume, I got to have the intensity. My question to you is, if you're injured, what if you would have backed off a little while, allowed yourself to recover, maybe trained in 3D as we call it, weren't so one-dimensional, maybe you wouldn't get hurt. And guess what happens if you don't get hurt? You can keep training, okay? And at the end of the day, that's what's going to matter, especially if you want longevity in your sport. And again, it really doesn't matter what your sport is. It could be bodybuilding, powerlifting, it could be CrossFit, it could be Olympic lifting, or it could be running. You got to be three-dimensional. You have to train to bring balance to the joints, and you have to give your body a rest. Now, it's not saying you can't chase numbers on the platform. It's not saying you can't chase more lean mass and less body fat on the competitive stage. It's not saying that you can't chase lowering your time in the mile, the 5K, the 10K, the half marathon, or whatever it may be. What it's saying is, be smart about it. train in 3D. Don't only train to be a runner. Don't only train to do CrossFit. Don't only train to powerlift. Don't only train to bodybuild. You've got to step back and allow your body some variety, and that variety allows you to fully recover. It allows you to make sure you're training balance about the joints. Look at many runners that have knee problems. If they actually incorporated weight training and backed off on the running, trained about the knee joint to restore balance about the knee, a lot of times that knee pain will completely go away. And guess what happens if your knees don't hurt? You're going to be able to pour the coals to it when it matters and train harder and for a greater amount of time. But sometimes you got to take that step back. Now, I got to be totally honest with you, I'm guilty of it too. I was that arrogant, late 20-something-year-old meathead bodybuilder that was competing, that happened to be fortunate enough to meet a former IFBB pro. That means they were a pro bodybuilder in the non-drug tested world. So yes, the individual is on drugs. And that individual told me a lot of things. He said, one, you need to allow yourself time to recover. Two, when you get to 30, things are gonna change. You're gonna have to change how you train. You won't be able to just go all the time. He also ironically said, are you gonna take drugs? And I said, no, probably not. Why? To which he responded, because at some point, once you start taking them, everybody's taking them in the sport, and the only way to win and continue to beat your opponents is to take more drugs. I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting, because like, did you take drugs? And he said, well, yeah, and that's part of the reason I quit. It literally got to the point where he who took the most drugs won the most contests. But again, I guess the take-home point is you need to learn to train in 3D. You need to learn to train to bring balance to your joints. Don't be so one-dimensional. If you're a powerlifter, spend some time doing the bodybuilding style training programs. Lower the weight, change the movement patterns, make sure you're restoring balance. If you're a runner, look at what weight training can do to make you a better runner. If you're a bodybuilder, back off on the amount of training. Maybe it's a training volume. Back off on the dieting. Let your body have the nutrients it needs to fully recover. I'm a walking example of that. I walk around today, and all of us know lifters in the gym. If you're a weightlifting worker outer at any gym under the sun, you probably know some older guys that have bad backs, bad shoulders, bad knees. Pay attention to what they say. It's not that you know more than they do. They're right. Listen to what they say. Learn to do the lifts correctly and take some time off. Again, this video, like all of our videos, is brought to you by Eat by Color. If you want other info on joint problems and some of the solutions we've found to be successful, check out Get Fit and Live Healthy. Both Eat by Color, Get Fit and Live Healthy, and our training book, Exercise Galore, on Amazon. Train in 3D, if you've got questions about what that actually means for you in your competitive arena, we would love to hear from you. Just post them below. If you're watching this live, post now. If you're watching it later, post whenever it's convenient. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and leave us a message there too.